16-year township resident after we relocated from California when my husband retired from the Los Angeles Police Department. For the last 9 years, I have proudly served on the Board of Education for Northville Public Schools, and during that 9-year tenure, I have held every officer position, rotating in and out, and also have served 3 years as its president. I'm currently the treasurer of a budget in excess of $90 million. And I'm very excited about this opportunity of taking my community service from the board aspect to the township aspect. And I believe that the various board positions that I have been involved with has prepared me well to earn your vote as a township trustee.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Just to stop you for 1 second, Cindy, you're aware of this because you've been on this, had this for the school board. I'm going to use the following convention. Yellow is 15 seconds remaining. Red means you're done. And I'll hold that up as it approaches. So if you don't see me, you still got more than 15 seconds to go.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. And now Kevin will be next.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Johnston, or you already know that because of the name in my bottom lower left-hand corner here. I'm a 15-year plus township resident. I'm an awarded Eagle Scout from the local troop here in Northville. I am a Northville Schools graduate myself and a local business owner here for over 7+ years. I'm currently running for township trustee to bring my experience and fresh perspective forward to aid our community in being the best that we can all be together.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Next up is Chris Rusin.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Rusin. I'm running for re-election to a 4-year term from 2020 to 2024. I'm a 20-year township resident. My wife and I are living our dream, having built our dream home in the Woodlands North. We've been here since 2000. We love our neighborhood, we love our community, and we're very privileged to be able to participate and give back. I have experience not only in the auto industry for 30 years, the first 20 at Ford and then Visteon and ACH, but also as a township trustee. I served 8 years from 2004 to 2012. I returned to the board 2 years ago in a special election. I'm presently seeking a full term to remain on the board. The theme this year is stable leadership for unstable times. Things are very good in Northville Township. We're very proud to live here. We believe that things in general are great. However, the times that we're living in are very unstable. So we don't want to take a risk by making any changes this year. We want to stay the course and continue to provide good government that is very responsive to our residents and their needs.
Thank you. Next up is Scott Frush.
Can't hear you, Scott.
Scott, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. All right. Hopefully that didn't count with the 30 seconds or the minute.
No, I'll start you over.
Thanks, Matt, and greetings to everyone. My name is Scott Frush, and I am a current trustee on the Northville Township Board of Trustees. And my family and I have been residents of Northville Township since 2011. I'm running in 2020 to be retained and continue my dedicated service to our great Northville community. Thank you to Matt Wilk and the rest of the board of the Northville Republicans Club for hosting this important event this evening. And thank you to our guest viewers who took valuable time to watch this forum. Your engagement is highly appreciated. I'm excited to be here and answer all the questions that are asked, and I hope to earn your vote in the upcoming primary election in August. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. And last but not least, Minnie Herman.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I believe that the Board of Trustees is best served by electing representatives that bring a wide range of different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. I graduated from the United States Naval Academy in the 8th class that allowed women, and from there served 28 years as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. And during that time, I think I learned an awful lot about working on a team and also thinking independently. I have lived in the township for 20 years. I've been married for 32 years. We raised 2 wonderful daughters here. I certainly love our community and think that my experience in the Marine Corps and some of the nonprofit work that I do speaks to a certain level of proficiency on the board. I look forward to working with anyone and everyone. I think we have great candidates, and I appreciate this opportunity tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. All right, let's get down to questions. And like we talked about in the order, be the same order of presentation, but the person starting will change every question. So this question will start with Kevin. And the question is as follows. Can you please give us your professional, civic, or other experience which leads you to believe that you are the right person to help govern Northville Township?
Well, relating that to my professional experience, I'm a realtor by trade. Here in the local community, I've been working for over 7+ years as a licensed real estate salesperson. I work for a small brokerage in the community, and my job is to go out and meet with the community, find out exactly what their needs are and how I can best work to accomplish them, working towards a win-win and problem solving in each transaction I'm a part of, and not duping anybody or not trying to pull anything over on anybody, because that's not how you run an established business in the community. It's all about moving forward with trust, respect, and open communication.
Great, thank you very much.
Hey, Matt,
Chris.
real quick, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. How much time do we have on the questions? I apologize.
Same thing, a minute. Minute for
1
everything.
minute. Okay.
Yep, it's a minute for everything, same protocol. All right, Chris, you're up.
Thanks, Matt. As I said, I'm a 20-year resident with 30 years experience in the auto industry. My community involvement over that time has ranged everything from president of the parish council at St. Colette, which is a church that many Northville residents belong to and attend, to board member of the Northville Community Foundation, Mayberry Farm at present. Farm open Friday. We'd love to see you and your families come on out now that the weather's good and we're reopened. I've also served 10 years of the past 16 as township trustee. During that time, I was appointed to represent you on the Planning Commission, the Economic Development Corporation, the Brownfield Authority, and the Youth Assistance Commission, to name a few. Those are some of the very important organizations that really are part of the glue that hold our community together. Churches, community, planning, kids, and so on. We're heading into some very unstable times. And so, as I said, I'm seeking re-election because I really believe that the continuity of stable government we have is crucial this year.
All right, thank you. Next up is Scott.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I think it's really important to say that experience does matter. So thank you for the question. If I'm elected in 2020, I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm not going to be learning on the job. I think that's really, really important, especially with the uncertainty that's before us. I do have substantial board experience as well. I am currently a member of the Northville Educational Foundation. I'm also their past treasurer. I'm the past treasurer of the Friends of the Northville District Library. I'm a past member of the Finance Committee of Meadowbrook Country Club. I served 2 terms on the Eastern Michigan University Alumni Association Board, past member of the Dad's Club of Ridgewood Elementary School. And then because of my board experience, I'm the current liaison to the Northville Beautification Commission, and also the liaison to the Northville Economic Development Corporation. So I think that this experience will benefit the board and benefit our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Mindy.
Hi. So as I mentioned, I served a very long time in the military, and I think that that did give me a lot of experience and training that is transferable to board service. I currently serve on 4 boards or commissions within the Northville Township Board: the Parks and Recreation, Northville Youth Assistance, Senior Alliance. I'm on the Election Commission, and I am the founder and chairperson of the Township Pathways Committee, which is something I feel very strongly about. I think it was Thomas Jefferson said that dissent is one of the highest forms of patriotism. And one thing I'm proud of on the board is I am willing to go it alone when necessary. The township isn't served by having a bunch of group thinkers, and my track record clearly shows that I will always fight for what I believe in and not be afraid to cast that single dissenting vote whenever necessary to the benefit of the township.
All right, thank you, Mindy and Cindy.
Thanks, Matt. As you know, I've been on the Board of Education for 9 years, and I think it's important to know, which I just saw a question from one of our listeners. I was supported by my colleagues, including Mr. Wilt, to serve as president in 2015, 17, and 19. So I think that coming from an aspect of leadership will serve me well in the township. I think my greatest attribute after serving the board is my ability to look at process-based decision-making, looking at the facts, evaluating input from constituents, sitting in their shoes to know what those issues are and how they will impact their families and their livelihood in here in Northville. And I think that I've done that for over the last 9 years, making sure that 7,000 plus students have the opportunity, curricular opportunities, as well as athletic opportunities, and to enhance programming for all our learner levels. I have been a staunch supporter of Northville Educational Foundation, working on many of their fundraising, as well as baseball, and most recently, Northville High School Senior All-Night Party. Sorry, Matt, thanks for the red flag.
I try to do it as politely as I can.
No, you don't.
Okay, and I think that's everyone with respect to that question. Great, thank you, everybody. So question number 2, and this question goes to first to Chris Rusin. Often, challenging issues arise in township government, and sometimes they are new, untested questions like we faced this spring. When making decisions, leaders often fall back on first principles to help guide their decision-making process. What would you describe as your 2 or 3 first principles that you use to help you lead?
Thanks, Matt. First of all, I'll begin with honesty and integrity. My wife and I volunteer our time and our efforts not because we want to get rich. We're not here for the money. We're not here for the fame. We're certainly not here for fortune. So every decision that I make is based on, as my friend Mindy said, what I truly believe is in the best interest of the community. Second points I like to make are, I was very blessed at the age of 22 years old to get a job at Ford Motor Company, which is more than a Fortune 500 corporation. It's near the top of the Fortune 500, as you all know. I learned some very important life lessons there. One of them is something that we practice here in Northville Township, and that's hire the best people, give them the best training, and then empower them to do their jobs. I often refer to being a township trustee or being on the board of trustees as being on the board of directors of Northville Township, because these are part-time jobs. We're not getting paid the big bucks to go into Township Hall and be politicians full-time. So those are the things. If I had more than a minute, I'd tell you more. Thanks.
You'll have more of a chance later. We have more detailed questions now, so you can get into it. Yeah. Scott.
Okay, so to answer this question, I'll say, going back to my experience, I'm a past instructor of finance at the University of Michigan, where I taught an undergraduate investments class. And perhaps the most important lesson that I preached was cost benefits / risk return, which are essentially the same. No decision should be made as a trustee without considering this principle. But cost benefit goes beyond simple textbook definitions, whereby how it impacts people, their lives, and the taxes they pay. All of that has to be taken into consideration. Second, transparency and accountability of decisions must be practiced and exercised at all time. And finally, I want to publicly state that I'm a fiscal conservative, not just fiscally responsible. My default thinking is not to defend spending, but have solid reasons why spending and taxes must happen. Otherwise, they shouldn't be presented to the people.
Thank you. And Mindy.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question, because a similar question was asked of my older daughter as she was recently applying to medical school. And the question was sort of like, what's the bumper sticker of your life? And, you know, I love that question so much. We talked about it as a family, and I've asked a lot of people about that question since. And I think that the 2 principles that guide me, certainly in the Marine Corps, we have honors, honor, courage, commitment. at the Naval Academy, and midshipmen will not lie, cheat, or steal. And all those are great things. And I try very hard to adhere to all of those. But the thing that I liked the best was work hard and be nice. And one of the things I love about working for the township board, which is, you know, small time politics, I guess, is that it allows us the ability to do that. We can work hard and be nice and all be on the same page. We're competitors, but we're all, I think I have respect for everyone here on this board or on this panel, and that's my 2 principles.
All right, Cindy.
So I believe, sorry, nice. So I believe, you know, I have always made decisions on the board after reviewing and digesting fact-based information. And I think that I have done a good job, as well as Matt has, serving on the board, on how to best support all of our residents for the greater good, and not just single issues or special interest groups. It's always been done with integrity and evaluating after we've digested it in our head, but then have gone to the heart and asked for community input. I have served on many initiatives, gone out in the community, done town hall meetings, superintendent chats, all the, you know, the issues that we've done at board meetings, listening to input. I think that I have a legacy of being a fair and unbiased leader who has looked at both sides of the aisle, no matter whether we may have wanted to hear it or not. But I think that I've done that with ethical considerations and having truthful dialogue and making those tough decisions for the greater good of the district. And I will continue to do that as a trustee.
All right, and last but not least, Kevin.
Well, I think it goes back to what Chris was talking about. It's stable leaders for unstable times out here. And you can't really predict what's going to happen. Nobody really predicted this virus coming, but it's moving forward with a focus on integrity and a focus on ground up leadership. It's leading and listening to people, listening to what they need, working towards the win-win and everything. It's something that I do every day, and when meeting with people and when working in transactions of buying and selling people's largest investment, their houses. I think it's bringing forward that wide range of perspective and making sure that everybody is heard and feels heard, and there's transparency in what's going on, and trying to work towards the common good and everything.
All right, great. Thank you. So that wraps up question number 2. Question number 3. What is your vision for development in Northville Township? Is the township on the right track toward that vision? Too much? Too little? Too different? And for that one, we start with Scott.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we're mostly on the right track, but there are areas of improvement. I'm running not to rock the boat. I'm not looking to change the character in Northville. I think the ship is pointed in the right direction. I think that our township is fiscally sound with outstanding public safety as well. And we need to ensure that all of this continues. There are 2 areas that I do want to quickly mention. First, I am concerned somewhat about the latest and future planned housing developments. I don't think we need more townhouses and houses packed in like sardines. That's really detrimental to the character of Northville. We need to stand up to the developers who want to build tract housing and pad their pocketbooks at the expense of residents. And second, contrary to the political postcards that have mailed recently, I was not part of the trustee board that voted to approve the 1% tax collection fee back in 2017. I was appointed by Bob Nix in early 2019. But I do pledge to all residents in Northville Township that I will investigate and I will work to ensure that this 1% tax collection fee is repealed.
All right, thank you, Mindy.
Mindy, you're muted.
Which is okay, because I didn't do the timer right anyway. So go ahead, Mindy.
Right. So our township is about 95% built out. And because of that, you know, development is limited. And I think we're doing mostly a good job. One thing I would really like to see, and we haven't corrected this yet, we haven't cracked this code, is developing senior housing in such a way that it is affordable enough for people to downsize from their 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom colonial in Northville. I say, I was a troop leader for a Brownie troop for my daughter, and I said, Northville is a township that people move to, not from. And a lot of people, as they become empty nesters, they want to stay in Northville, but in order to downsize, they can't afford to do it, because downsizing means you're going to have to buy an $800,000 condominium. And that's just, it's not right. So I think we need to be creative in looking for ways to crack that nut. And also, you know, certainly promote the development along the MyTech corridor and, you know, on the outskirts to improve our tax base.
Thank you very much. Cindy.
So I'm just going to agree with Scott and Mindy, but I think Northville is well positioned for continued but thoughtful development. I think that the close proximity to Metro Airport, you know, makes us a great location for continued expansion or relocation for global companies. We also offer a great opportunity if you're a person who hates to commute like I do and wants to live really close to home and value our family time together. I think Northville offers a great opportunity for an abundance of varied residential, whether it's, you know, condos, townhomes, single residential units, but will give, you know, give global companies the opportunity to look at a bedroom community who offers great schools, walkability with our trails and paths, and a really a high quality living environment to attract their employees and or to continue the employment of current employees and get them into a great community. And I think that's what Northville has to offer with thoughtful development.
Great, thank you. And Kevin.
I think the community is going on a good track right now with development, and I think they have a good eye towards what the consumers need, whereas more commercial shopping districts, more restaurants and hotels type situations. But I do think, and I agree that Mindy is correct in that a lot of people are unable to downsize right now. And I think that's a mark that Northville may be missing out on. And I think it's something that maybe we need to start focusing on, some smaller houses instead of the 4,000 square foot plus brick McMansions that are out there and in great supply in our township right now. But I also do think that green space needs to be not forgotten. I see a lot of development going on of commercial districts, but not so much of green space. So I think maybe there should be some more emphasis put on improving Mayberry Park and something that we already have instead of just trying to find land from pulling land out of midair, which we don't have, so.
All right, thank you very much. Chris.
Should be me.
Last up.
Thanks, Matt. If you look around Northville, you see that those who came before us really did a fantastic job. I'm talking about people who, over the course of many, many, many years, developed a master plan and implemented it. People like Marv Gans, people like Dick Allen, people like George McCarthy, people like Bob Nix. And again, the wonderful staff that we've hired. Our staff member, Jennifer Fry, in particular, comes to mind as somebody that I deeply respect. We plucked her away from the private sector and brought her into Northville Township because we knew that she could make such a strong contribution on development. Now, that's not to say that I agree with everything that's been done. Of course, maybe I would have done it differently here or there, where I personally think there's too much density or too many houses on too small of lots. But the people who were in charge at the time, both Supervisor Abbo and Supervisor Nix and those before them, they made those decisions for good reasons. So I'm not going to second guess what they've done because I think the outcome, as we all agree, has been just fantastic. And we're all very, very proud to live here.
All right, great. Thank you, Chris. And that wraps up question number 3. Let's move on to question number 4, timely for the upcoming election. Township voters will be considering an increase of the police and fire millage on the August ballot. Do you support that millage? If so, why? And if not, why not? And this one starts with Mindy.
All right. As you may know, I was the only person to vote against that proposal. And my reason for doing it is I think that the economic impact of COVID-19 is yet to be seen. It could be severe. It certainly is proving to be severe for a lot of people, being furloughed, losing their jobs, being part-timed, being on unemployment. And I thought that a 6-year millage request was too much. I thought we could do a 2-year, have no additional cost for an election, and reevaluate. So that was my position. Also, there's a lot of talk about Headley, Headley rollbacks. And I think the important thing to remember with Headley rollbacks is even though the percentage that we're getting looks like a less percent, the amount of taxable revenue that we're generating over the past 6 years, which was the term of the last millage, has increased from like 12.9 million per year to like 19.1 million per year. So I voted no for that. For the term, not because I didn't support the police. I very much support the police.
Okay, and next up is Cindy.
I got to tell you, first of all, I just don't understand this whole Headley rollback thing, but I'm going to try and give my best response here because I still don't understand it after being on the board. So the millage renewal, in my estimation, will help us keep our services in place for the protection of our community and first responders to keep those response times that we have enjoyed and that, quite frankly, we deserve. My understanding is of the 2014 tax that was implemented, it's going to roll off at the end of the year. So we will lose approximately $600,000 starting in January of 2021 because of that Headley rollback. So in order to preserve the services that our residents currently enjoy, and based on other rollbacks because of the 7 Mile property, it's really a wash. You're going to see a reduction of approximately $100 for a $400,000 house with an increase of approximately $100 for a same $400,000 house. So really, in my estimation, it is a way to keep our services that our residents want and continue to do it without an increase.
Thank you. Kevin.
I'm a big supporter of public safety and public services. I think Northville Township has a high standard, and I think they've been doing a great job of that so far. That being said, I do not support this increase in millage rates to give them more money. I think we need to be more transparent and more fiscally responsible with the money that we have, as we do pay a lot in taxes currently right now. And I think it just needs to be better managed and going to the right ways. I don't think that buying brand new Tahoes every year is a good thing. And I don't think buying brand new everything is a good thing all the time. I think it needs to be better spent conservatively and responsibly.
All right, great. And Chris.
Thanks, Matt. First of all, one of the best things about being a resident of a township is that nobody else can raise your taxes. Our residents get to vote on whether they want to pay X millage for Y level of service. And that's where we've been, and that's where we are right now. Through sheer coincidence, a 7-year millage that was passed back in 2014 is expiring. Nobody saw COVID coming, but smart people sat down and looked at what does it cost to maintain the level of service that we enjoy today in police and fire predominantly. Because 88% of this money, should it pass on election day, will go to public safety and only public safety. It cannot be redirected anywhere else. But we're all Republicans here. We all support the police. We all love our firemen and our EMS. We want to support them. I want to point out that it was only recently that we've been able to afford to restore police staffing to where it was prior to the Great Recession. So the reason these numbers were developed was to maintain that level of service. So you get to vote.
All right, great, thank you. And then Scott.
Great comments there, Chris. I echo all of those. This approval to place the millage on the ballot, I mean, it was a difficult decision, I think, for all of us. I'm anti-tax, and I never want to vote for a tax increase, but I will never, ever throw our good men and women of the first responders, police, fire, EMT, under the bus and not give them the funding that they desire. So I did vote to push this forward on the millage. I do also want to say that, of course, there was a politically charged hit piece that came out recently saying that taxes for Northville residents are going to be going higher, and that's not true. It's entirely false. There are, and we knew this before the vote, there are other millages that will be ending. And so Northville residents will actually be paying less in taxes in 2021 than they will in 2020, provided nothing else changes because of the deduction in millage. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. And to show the flexibility of doing this on the fly for the remaining 3 questions that I have, we're going to extend the time period to 1 minute and 30 seconds. So you guys get a little more time to speak without running over our budgeted time. The next question, and this one starts with Cindy again. Sadly, it looks like state revenue sharing is going to be reduced in the coming year. In reviewing the budget, can you identify areas that can be cut? What are they, and how will you make the choices necessary if tax revenue falls short?
Well, first of all, I would hate to, obviously cut any of our services, but I think that in the event that there is a decrease in the budget and we have to look at cuts, I think that after looking at the 2025 capital improvements that are scheduled to go on in the township in the next 5 years, that, unfortunately, some of those may be delayed. And I think an evaluation of those delays and how they impact safety first for our residents. I know that there has been a myriad of extensions for our school kids to get to their schools on foot and to be able to make pathways and that type of thing. So, unfortunately, capital improvements always seem to be the one area of concern. I think that I have learned also in my tenure on the board that when you do delay capital improvements, they sometimes cost you more in the long run because you didn't have the opportunity to do repair and maintenance. And so again, those types of considerations of if we do it now as compared to 2 years from now, how much is it going to, are we going to be able to replace a parking lot as efficiently now as we could in the future? So I think considerations for perhaps delaying or revamping considerations for capital improvements. The one thing that can be done now is to extend, mowing cycles. Yeah, we're going to, not be as tidy and as pretty as we have been able to do, and or to look at guidelines on snow plowing. Those are kind of cost savings that can be immediate, but would not have long-term effects till we see where the budget's at.
Thank you. Kevin.
Well, nobody likes giving cuts. It's not a good thing to step back in our quality and what we come to enjoy and what we come to appreciate. I think one of the biggest areas, though, that I can see right away is just needless spending. Looking at the latest Board of Trustee minutes, it's like $16,000 on a lawnmower. And it's very funny that Cindy brought up lawn mowing, especially because I think that's something that just doesn't seem worth it. I think we can go get a used lawnmower maybe. We can maybe go get the police a used Tahoe instead of buying 5 or 4 brand new Tahoes for them. I think there's just a lot of things that we can afford to be more flexible with, and we can afford to be, just like Scott likes to point out, more fiscally responsible.
Okay. Chris.
So first, the good news. We're blessed to have a AA+ bond rating, one of only about 50 in the state of Michigan. We're blessed that this board and prior boards did not go hog wild with union contracts, just giving away the kitchen sink. Consequently, we've been able to fully fund our pensions and our post-retirement healthcare plans. We also have a 5-year spending plan and a 5-year capital expenditure plan that rolls. So some of the things that you saw purchased were planned for and budgeted prior to the present situation. Now, knowing that things have changed, we have to reassess going forward. State shared revenue, we've already been told we're going to lose $1.5 million. Now, we're not going to take one action that's going to solve this problem. It's going to be the sum of many, many, many small actions, just as we did when I was on the board with Mindy back 2008 to 2012 during the Great Recession. So I should point out that as the township, our fiscal year is the same as the calendar year. So we're halfway through this fiscal year. We can throttle back spending now because we don't know where the economy is going, and we can appropriately budget for 2021. We've already taken some steps. We've moved some people to part-time. There's some people who unfortunately are no longer with us right now. But it's going to take many, many of these small steps to see us through this present situation.
Thank you, Chris. Scott.
I guess the short answer is it really remains to be seen, because there's a lot of uncertainty going forward, of course, with the economy, with state funding, with property values, so we don't know. But I think we all know the expression, 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And we've had essentially those 7 years now, but it's what you do with the assets at that time, in this time, this environment, that's critically important. And we've been very fiscally responsible with the township, and I've supported being fiscally responsible with my votes. Today, we only have 18 full-time employees at the township that are funded by the general fund, that is. Our pension liabilities are minimum, which is very different from other communities. If cuts need to happen, again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but if they're gonna have to happen, it's probably gonna be with capital improvements to begin with, and then push out maintenance work that we need to do. But stretching every dollar and being good stewards of the taxpayers' money is absolutely critical.
All right, great, thank you. And last but not least, Mindy.
So I talked about the Headley rollbacks, and I just want to emphasize that point again, that even though, like, percentage-wise, like 6.25 was allotted for police and fire, now it's down to 6 because of the Headley rollbacks. We're still collecting much more money than we did in 2014, much more money in tax revenue generated because our tax base has grown. So 12.1, I believe, million from property tax generated revenue in 2014 to 19.2 in 2019. So I think that, like, I just want to emphasize, I don't want to lay off a single police officer. I support the police, but our police, they're all college educated. And our directors are incredibly smart. I think our challenge needs to be to them how we can keep the same quality of life and do some of the measures that Kevin said, you know, cost saving measures, just like we do in our own households, and you know, spend less, have the same quality of life. Because what do we do when we, you know, lose money at home? We look for ways, instead of having steak, we have a hamburger. Instead of, you know, Netflix, we go to Redbox, whatever. I mean, there are certain cuts that we can make to provide the same level of service to our township residents without spending more money, and in fact, spending less money. So I don't think that there's any smoking gun of things that we're doing wrong in terms of spending. I think we need to just charge our very smart, dedicated directors to look at under every rock and find cost-saving measures.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you, I think it works better with a minute and a half, so let's stick with that. This question starts with Kevin, and this is an open-ended one, and you can answer one or more than one. What would you say is the #1 issue or watch point facing the township in the coming year?
Well, I think it's transparency. I think it's being fully aware and making others fully aware what we're doing and why we're doing it. If we want to pass taxes and try to raise taxes, we got to say exactly what it's going to be for and where that money is going to be going. I think a lot of people just don't really know or understand. Maybe it's accessibility of information, or maybe it's just not really aware. But I think moving forward, a lot of people are going to be paying a lot more attention to where their money's going towards. And I don't think they want to see the kind of cuts like public services or public safety especially. But I do think that there is availability and definitely necessary that we're going to have to cut other things. And we're going to have to maybe eat some more hamburgers instead of the steak every night. Or maybe we're going to have to get a used lawnmower that's $5,000 instead of the $16,000. I just think it's transparency and communication, which goes back to the core fundamental values of integrity. I think a lot of people in our community need to know everything, and they need to be aware of everything, at least to the extent they want to be. And I think working together, we can all collectively come up with great ways to move forward and do the common good.
Okay. Great, thank you. And next up is Chris.
Sure. Well, aside from the issues with the landfill that are well known and we continue to work on really in the forefront, just last week, I was in Lansing with Supervisor Nix working on that issue in the legislature. Aside from that, of course, the uncertainty regarding these economic times is what is our number one issue. So as I said, as we go from July through December, and as we budget for next year, these need to be our watch points. I spoke with our township assessor tonight, and I asked him, are we going to see housing values fall as they fell in the Great Recession? First time ever. The response I got was, we do not see residential property values falling. However, commercial is the issue. Empty stores, businesses that can't pay their rent, perhaps people who own commercial property who can't pay their mortgage are going to be coming in asking for relief at the tax tribunal. So we have to keep our eye on that. We've got to go through the budget line by line again, double down on our efforts to take many, many small actions to defer spending, just like, as my colleagues have said, just like you do in your home. You might want to have a new roof this year. Maybe you can just patch it. You might want to paint the whole house this year. Maybe you just paint the room you need. You might want that new Lincoln. Maybe you need to have a Ford instead. So these are the things we've got to do. This is what is the number one issue and touch point. And that's, how do we continue to balance our budget?
All right, great, thank you. And Scott.
Muted.
Sorry. Great question, Matt. And, it's actually kind of difficult. I mean, I think that there are three really good candidates for this. I mean, the landfill is key. I'm against the landfill. I voted for help in Lansing to fight the landfill. We need to do everything to hold them accountable and to restrict them from building the additional landfill on the other side of 6 Mile. We really need to fight back on that. Public safety, huge issue. If this millage does not pass on the August primary ballot, then we're going to have to go back to the voters and ask them what they're looking for instead, because we can't have a reduction in our public safety. If COVID-19 resurfaces, second round, what have you, if the economy falters and crime picks up and there's more home invasions, we have to have the police and the fire and the EMT to take care of all of that. And then lastly, the budget. I mean, I think that could be a really, really big concern as well. I mean, property values decrease, the state doesn't kick in some money as well. We're really going to have to look at the budget and make some meaningful cuts to where we spend our money. We're going to have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money on that.
Okay. All right, great. And Mindy.
Not me. Yeah, I agree with Scott. I think those are the top three issues, and I know you asked for one. Certainly the landfill is a huge problem. It's getting bigger literally every day, week, and month, and it affects the west side of the township tremendously. I think we need to work together to educate the east side of the township, because when, Chris and I were talking, when we first moved in, you couldn't see it from, as you're driving down 7 Mile. Now, if you're on 7 Mile, you can see the landfill east of Northville Road. I mean, it's a problem. It's a stinky problem. And we need everybody kind of thinking out of the box and working together to try to attack that problem, because as you know, it's not in our jurisdiction, and we need to work on that. The budget, we've talked about the millage. Like I say, our tax base is generating more money. I don't want to let go of a single person if we can help it, especially not in police and fire. But it goes back to one of my guiding principles, which was be nice. And there are so many people in our township, I think, that are adversely financially affected by COVID-19. And we need, to be mindful of that. Paying $100 more a month in your taxes is not that much, perhaps. But if you can't afford the $7,000 for your taxes because you're out of a job, that is something to be mindful of. And we need to, there's a human cost to this. And so I think we need to look for creative ways to provide the same level of service at a lesser cost.
All right, great. And Cindy.
Last but not least.
So
I wanted to just reiterate Scott's comments, because he really did hit on the ones that I had for discussion. I think anticipating the impacts of COVID-19 and possible loss of, property sales tax, perhaps a reduction in our property values, and then being ready to see if we might see a resurgence come later in the fall or the winter, because, you know, we've opened up the state and now we don't really know what to expect. I think monitoring these reductions on a regular, you know, a monthly or quarterly basis from the township perspective would, you know, give transparency as to what we're monitoring and how we could make appropriations to you know, to better recognize where budget concerns would be. You know, I've had the opportunity to work on the landfill working group as the board liaison, and quite frankly, you know, I live in the northern part of the township, so I'm not, you know, I'm not living right next to the blasted thing, but having, you know, heard the complaints and heard their concerns about continued violations with advanced disposal. I mean, we need to continue to monitor those, and we need to continue to work with Lansing like Mr. Nix did on June 9th, as he testified in front of the Michigan House of Representatives Committee on National Resources and Outdoor Recreation to try and revise Part 115 so that surrounding communities can have a voice in whether they want to see that landfill grow or have new landfills put in. And I think he did a great job, you know, not only proposing for Northville Township, but for other, you know, communities that have landfills right in their backyard. So I think those, you know, are two of the big ones.
All right, great. Thank you. Final question. It goes as follows. This starts with Chris. A topic that has come up frequently is sharing of services. Where do you stand on that issue? And can you give some examples of where it either has worked or has not?
Yeah, I'm starting. I'm glad you asked the question. I am a huge fan and proponent of shared services. During the downturn 10 years ago, I was consulting at SEMCOG, going to local communities in the Southeast Michigan region, preaching that message. Here's how you can work with your neighbors, as we do here in Northville. We're extremely proud of our partnerships with the school district, the city, the chamber, the growing partnership we have with Plymouth Township on the 5 Mile Road corridor, building tech parks, going back 30 years, the founding of Watua that enabled us to build our own sewage treatment system and disconnect from Detroit Water and Sewage Department sewage. 100% of our sewage now goes to Ypsilanti instead, to a state-of-the-art system without all the baggage of Detroit. That's a partnership with Canton, Plymouth, Northville Townships. So I'm a huge fan. I want to see more. I thought we'd be doing more by now. Maybe it'll take the COVID-19 recession to make it happen. You asked the second half of your question, when does it not work? When it doesn't work is for 2 or 3 reasons. The first one is when one community feels they're subsidizing the other. They feel like the other community isn't paying its fair share. Second reason is when the communities simply want different levels of service. Great example would be fire service here in Northville. We're paying for a full-time fire department with advanced life support paramedics. The city of Northville feels they can't afford that, so they have paid on call. So that's just a different level of service. It's not because we don't get along. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Scott?
Thanks, Matt, for the question. Normally, sharing a service means that there's a cost reduction because that's why you have that partnership. I'll start with the easy answer, and that's when does it not work? And one of the latest example was Wayne Risa, right? Where they had this crazy tax, they had that millage, and I don't believe it actually passed in Northville Township, but Northville residents with the Wayne Risa tax, I think we paid more than, or 50 cents on the dollar goes to other school districts in Wayne County rather than ours. That's not the definition of shared service. That's not when it works. The whole millage with the DIA as well, not in favor of that, voted against it at the ballot box. That's not what I like either. But when shared services work, it's a good thing for everyone. So Chris, you mentioned Northville Public Schools, terrific. Another example is Northville District Library, another great service as well, organization. I'm at the library all the time, past treasurer of the Friends. I was part of the development organization over at the library. So I get it, it's very valuable. You mentioned, Chris, you mentioned the Chamber, another great organization that I'm a member of. And then Parks and Rec too. We have a shared service with Parks and Rec. My 2 children play soccer. My son's on travel soccer. So these things are really important. It cuts down on the cost, opens up options for everyone. So I am in favor of sharing the services where it makes financial sense.
All right, Mindy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of what's been said before. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I sit on 3 shared service commissions, one being Parks and Recreation, which is a joint venture, I guess, between the city, the township, and the school district. Same thing with Northville Youth Assistance and the Senior Services Commission. I think a lot of people in our community, and when I say our community, I mean Northville Township and Northville City, you know, think of us as one. Some people don't even know that they're in a different municipality. They think of it as the same. But I think it's very important to maintain these relationships and to look for efficiencies. Chris mentioned one, the, you know, advanced life support that, you know, is something, if the city were willing to talk about, I think we certainly would be willing to talk about how we could, you know, half of our, I think 80%, 60%, something like that of our runs actually go through the city of Northville. So it could benefit both perhaps. What else? I guess, you know, I guess that's it. One thing I am very concerned about is school funding. I know that the schools are going to take a beating with shared revenue losses, and you know, these are our kids. I mean, this is why we moved to Northville Township. Most of us is for the school. Certainly that's the reason why I did. And so I think, you know, even though it's not our problem because we're the township, I think it is our problem, and we need to look for ways to partner cooperatively to help our kids.
Thank you. Cindy.
So, you know, most everybody's taken the wind out of my sails. So I'm just gonna say, you know, as long as shared services are, you know, benevolent to the township and provides cost savings, I think they're a great opportunity to work cohesively with the community. Like Chris, I believe Chris said, you know, when those services don't really support our residents, then it's time to look elsewhere. But I think that our shared services contracts and along with the various organizations that we support have all been, you know, very cohesive and have given services for the city in particular, whose budget is much smaller than the township, has given them the ability to, you know, share those services and give it to the residents and, you know, to be able to enjoy those. You know, the one thing Mindy brought forth was school funding. Right now, we're not quite sure how badly we're going to be hit, but we do enjoy the opportunity for the shared services of youth assistance, because as you know, we have implemented in the last year or so about social emotional learning, and youth assistance has done a great job for us in being able to support our kids and to give them the support that they need to make sure that their academic life is fruitful and is continuous and is supportive. So, you know, those are the types of services that not everyone knows about, but we do enjoy them. And I think that unless there is a significant reason not to look at shared services, we should be able to continue those and move those forward for all of our residents.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Finally, Kevin.
I'm a big supporter of shared services. I think when we work together, we collectively can accomplish great things. I think bringing everybody's unique perspectives and experience to the table creates for a win-win solution for everybody. An example of where it works, I mean, this past weekend, there was an accident over at the 7 Mile apartment complex, and our EMS people were unable to take the, I guess, victim into the hospital right there. So we had to call in Plymouth Township. They came in, they were able to provide assistance, and they were taken to the hospital, and everything was taken care of really quickly. I think that's a great example of how shared services can really help us out moving forward. And I think it's something we do need to focus on and we do need to continue doing.
All right, great. Thank you. We are going to revert for our closing statements. We're going to revert back to a minute so we can stay on time. And our closing statement by the order of rotation starts with Scott. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you again to the Northville Republicans Club It was an honor to be here. Thank you to all the candidates as well. I do want to end with something. I think it's important of the people that are endorsing you in your candidacy. Anybody really can say anything. So I do want to share a couple of names with you who have endorsed my campaign, and please take this into consideration. So Sue Hillebrand, a 26-year Northville Township Trustee and retired Township Clerk, has endorsed me. Terry Marecki, our current County Commissioner, has endorsed me. Samantha Heath, the current Township Trustee, has endorsed me. Bob Nix, our current Township Supervisor, has endorsed me. Jeff Noble, our former state representative, has endorsed me. Patrick Kolbeck, our former state senator, has endorsed me. Marty Testasica, Bob Cushman, Tom Sprout, and the Floney family, owners of Cantoro, all have endorsed me, and I think that's a compelling argument. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Mindy.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks to your Northville Township Republican Club. This has been great. I think to be effective at this job, you certainly need dedication. You need some sort of a track record of public service. You need vision. You need the ability to think out of the box. And you need the ability to be an independent thinker and to vote no. There have been, that I can think of off the top of my head, probably at least 5 votes where I have voted amicably, but against my fellow colleagues. And doing that because I feel that's right. It's scary to vote independently, to be the only one in a crowded room and vote no. And I have done that on a number of occasions for what I believe in. And I think, you know, if people feel fit to elect me again, I very much appreciate it and hope that I can continue to do a good job, because I think what we've built in Northville Township is really great. And I'm proud of the current board and all the boards that I've worked with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Cindy.
So Matt, just want to say again, thank you for organizing this event, and thank you to the Northville Republicans Club to give us an opportunity to speak with your members. You know, it's really difficult to summarize, you know, everyone's experience in this type of forum due to the, you know, time frames that are going on. So I would just invite you to look at Jankowski 4, the number 4, northville.com on my website or on my Facebook page under Jankowski for Northville, because I'll be continuing to update responses to your inquiries and for information that I've been sending out to the League of Women Voters and to a couple other arenas, so that you can get a better idea of my qualifications and how I would like to continue my public service. I have enjoyed my time on the Board of Education, and I feel now is the right time to continue that service for all residents of Northville Township. And I would appreciate your vote of confidence on August 4th. So thanks for a great event and have a good night.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin.
I want to thank you all very much for being here. I want to thank you for inviting me and the club and for putting this on. I want to say thank you to all our township residents for coming out and listening to us. I very much appreciate your vote. I think that I hope that no matter the outcome, no matter who wins or who loses, we can all continue to work together for a brighter and better future community that we all can enjoy. I think we very much need to follow what's written on all our trash cans out there, moving forward to tomorrow without forgetting yesterday. I'll do a shameless plug as well and say you can go to votekevinjohnston.com, or you can check out my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I'm happy to share more experiences and connect with each individual resident out there. I look forward to serving you in the future, and I hope that I have the pleasure of being elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And finally, Chris.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you to the club and to my fellow trustees and candidates for participating. This has really been a great experience. I think it's a testament to the character, not only of ourselves, but the character of our community, that I wouldn't mind serving with all 4 of you on the board. I think this has been a fantastic experience. But I want to sum up by saying that Northville Township is a great place to live, to raise your family, and to stay here in your retirement years. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because of good planning, good budgeting, good execution by good people on the board today and those who came before us. So before you vote, I'd encourage you to do research. I have a Facebook page, Northville Township Trustee Chris Rusin. I, like others, have responded to much more detailed surveys from League of Women Voters. I'd encourage you to read those answers. The Conservancy Initiative, which is very active in stopping the dump, and the Greater Metropolitan Area Realtors, which did choose to endorse me as well as some of the other candidates. So thank you for your time and good evening.
Thank you, everybody. That's great. And I really appreciate your participation tonight. I think it's very important that we show our residents who we are, talk about issues. I think those are all things that we can really do really well. Let me give you a brief plug. The next forum, which will be for the executive committee offices, will be held Monday, June 29th. We'll have all 6 candidates, the 2 candidates for supervisor, 2 candidates for treasurer, and 2 candidates for clerk. Will also be in a Zoom format, and sign up will be coming soon. And I'd like to end by saying thank you very much for participating. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Goodbye.
Matt.
Bye.
Great job, Matt.
Bye. Great job. NBC could hire you, Matt.
The cat come in again.
Me and Mindy here. Mindy's the
I know.
host. I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave. Bye, Mindy.
Bye. Nice seeing you.